Guten Abend. Guten Abend. I hope you're all having a beautiful evening. Yes. Uh-oh. I hope this is streaming. Yes, it's streaming. Excellent. It says, very good. Here you go, Kalisi. Here's your dessert. If you watch me regularly, you know that I walk her feeder just before the stream and then she comes. That's your dessert. That is your dessert, Kalisi. Yes, it is. She's in shock because it's such a good dessert. It's liver and cow skin. Homemade. How disgusting is this? I'll show you. There it is. Liver and cow skin. And done in the dehydrator. But I made the skin too thick. And she just swallows it whole. I should make it longer and thinner next time. It was an experiment. Just imagine that chocolate. White chocolate and black chocolate. Go. Okay, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen and non-binary people. I will get on with the stream. Okay, so welcome to the live stream. If you've never been to the live stream before, I'll just quickly tell you how it works. First of all, we do a meditation for 15 minutes and then we start the talk about 6:15 or 6:20. And then I take the question and answers maybe a bit before 7. Depends how chatty I am in the introduction. If you want to ask questions, you do so through Skype, which is Lisa Cairns 12. You can find it in the box below. And tonight the talk is called, let me have a look. Is there a concept of value which is considered absolute or superior? Non-Duality, Lisa Cairns. Yeah, it's a nice title. I would say I thought of it myself, but sometimes I struggle so much to find a title. Tonight I just typed into Google non-duality quotes, and this was one of the quotes, and I just adapted it into a question. Little bit of a cheat. It's hard thinking up the titles of talks. They don't always just pop out of God or pop out of nowhere. You're sitting there, you're like, come on, nowhere. Hurry up, allez. It says 6 o'clock the talk. It doesn't say 6:30. You got to hurry. And then nothing's like, I'm just going to take my time. I might deliver it in an hour or so. So then you have to use Google, which ironically is also nothing, but it's nothing in a different way. It's not pure nothing. It's not like just sitting there and having the idea without Google. It's like secondary nothing, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's go into meditation. So the reason I call it meditation is really just smoke and mirrors for the audience. Sorry to be so disappointing for those of you that are sat there and like, we're going to meditate and we're going to get somewhere. Really, the truth is I like sitting in silence prior to meditation. If I was more egotistical, if my ego was this big instead of just being that big, I would say it's because nothingness or God likes to sit in silence prior to talk. But because my ego is this big and not that big, I say to you that I prefer it. You see? I take personal responsibility there rather than saying nothingness or God. Very small ego. And so basically that's why we sit in silence. But then in order to make you feel satisfied that something's actually happening, I say to you that we meditate, and then everybody's satisfied. They're like, oh yes, to-do list, meditate, tick. Yoga, tick. Non-duality talk, tick. enlightened nearly. So yeah, that's why I do that. So that when you tune in, you don't feel conned that I'm just sitting here with my eyes closed for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the talk. So the other side to meditation on the human level is it is beneficial to you on the human level, but really on the absolute level, it's got nothing to do with non-duality. It's the same as eating a chocolate bar or taking cocaine. I'm so sorry, but that's the way it is. I didn't invent the rules. And if you've never heard that quote, life isn't fair, then this is the time to learn it. Yeah, but on the human level, meditation can settle you down unless you've got high IQ. I'm presuming that most of you don't have that high IQ, but if you've got really high IQ, don't meditate. So I presume most of you are going to meditate. That's just a joke. If you're American, you might not realize I'm being sarcastic. Oh, can I get away with saying that? We in England have this idea that Americans don't really get sarcasm. So, yeah. But I'm sure that's just our humor. But yeah, I've got to say that somebody did comment on a video the other day when I was talking about like the meditation about sticking your finger up the nose and in the mouth and something. Somebody did comment in there, like, I don't understand the meditation, like why she's giving us this meditation. It could be that that person was being sarcastic, but I had the feeling they weren't. Yeah, so what was I saying? The meditation. Yeah, so that's a joke about the high IQ and low IQ. But if you do have really high IQ with rapid thought processing, it's not always the best meditating. It can be, but it can also, you get stuck into thoughts. Also the same with maybe like OCD, or the same with if you've got a strong trauma that's running through you at the moment. And then if that's the case, then the best recommendation would be something like yoga, Tai Chi, or even Wim Hof. Wim Hof does different breathing exercises. Like breathing exercises is a fantastic solution to it. I can never remember the Indian name for it because of my dyslexia. It doesn't give me the privilege of always knowing new words and being able to remember them. Even though I've known this word for well over 20 years now, I still cannot ever remember how to pronounce it. It's something like pranayana breathing. I'm sure there's people out there shouting to me what it is. But I can't hear you because obviously you're in a computer. Yes, Kalisi's not getting any more dinner. You had your dessert. That's her begging. Okay, yeah, so we do meditation. So it can be good for you on the human level, and it can help settle down the person if you don't have these exceptions, which I just said. But sometimes, you know, when you start meditating, if you've never done it before, it is really painful because your mind is so used to having free reign and dominating everything. And when you're meditating, it's often about focusing the mind, and it's kind of like exercising a muscle. There is resistance to it. It hurts. I remember when I first started meditating many moons ago, I remember like my mind was crazy. Like it started like doing almost psychedelic stuff. This, like before my experimentation with drugs, and do this psychedelic stuff. Yeah. If you wonder what Kalisi's doing, she's doing the booty dance. This is her begging for food. You can hear her stomping. It's just her back legs, so her booty's like swinging all over the place. This is all she does when she's hungry. Yeah, so what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. She distracted me. Yeah. So if it is painful, just persevere. knowing the most important thing, that there's nobody that does anything. Perseverance is happening. I can suggest it and I can say it, but whether it happens, it's down to God or nothing. Not a thing. Yeah, so the different meditation processes are, Kalisi, don't eat that. The different meditation processes are the mindfulness of breathing, the mindfulness of breathing, which is counting your breath. So every time you breathe in, you count every time you're breathing, ascending all the way up to number 10. And then when you get to number 10, coming back to the beginning again. The other one is putting your attention back into the I am or consciousness, whatever that means to you. And then the third one is just sitting there and letting the mind do whatever it does and allowing it to settle naturally. Yeah. Okay, so you might see that I disappear when we're doing the meditation because I'm going to have to pick up some things. She's not satisfied with how much food I've given her tonight, so she's trying to eat everything. So I have to pick up the things she's trying to eat. It's her way of having a tantrum. She knows it gets my attention. Yeah. The Kalisi tantrum will be over by the time we come back for the introduction. Okay. I just put on the gong, the big gong, and then we shall begin. Good evening for those of you who have joined now. Okay, los geht's. Let's begin. So the title of the talk is, let me remind myself a second time. Is there a concept or value which is considered absolute or superior? It's quite a nice question. I just put Skype on red. Oh, it is on red. Yeah, so if you want to call in, I just saw that Devish called in. Please put call me, and when I've finished doing the introduction, I'll call people that I'm ready to. Yeah, so I just do the introduction first. So I could go back to basics. Basics. Boopy doopy doop. I've got the wrong light on. Just let me quickly switch this off. I will talk while moving. So, when we are very young, or when we're born, we don't have what traditionally in non-duality would be called the ego, or the separate I. There is just boundlessness, pure, unadulterated boundlessness. There isn't somebody that's looking at life. Okay, so I'm sorry. Just let me sort out what I've done. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so when you are a very young child, there isn't a sense of being a separate I. There is just boundlessness. So the baby isn't looking at its hand and going, my hand. It's just in awe at everything. There is no sense of separation, a sense of a separate person in there experiencing the world. There is simply everything, and everything comes from nowhere. It's not coming from past or future, it's coming from no place. It's appearing out of nothing. And the baby is just in awe. And then at about 2 or 3, or maybe later or earlier for some, there is a sense of I arises, a sense that I am looking at an outside world. It's not an intellectual thought, it's more of a feeling, but it comes with thinking. So as the brain progresses and becomes more intelligent, this I forms, and then there is this identification with an I that's always moving in time. So it's always moving from past to future. Like, I have been to the shops, I am going to the cinema tonight. I am a good person. I have been a good person in the past. I'll be a good person in the future. I'm being a good person now. So there is this continuous identification with a narrative that is being told to yourself. And your narrative, even though the narrative to most humans doesn't feel like this, your narrative is all about survival. It doesn't feel like that. Like when you're having a narrative about what beautiful necklace you want or what dinner dance you're going to tonight, it doesn't feel like survival, but it is about survival. So the buying the necklace would be about showing your worth to other potential males or females or whoever you want to show your worth to. So, if we're in a different culture where showing your worth would be about how many tattoos or spreading mud all around your body or wearing very little clothes, then that would be what you did. Most people like to say, I'm buying the necklace though because I like it, it's my personal style or my personal taste. And that's true, but it's it is your personal taste and there is your personal flair and your personal creativity, but it's also about positioning. And to you, that is the superior look. That is the best look. That is your true and authentic self, but it's also what you consider the best thing to be. So maybe you consider that to be the highest form of being yourself, is to be true and authentic. And so to you, unconsciously, that will be the most powerful position to take and superior position. So in spirituality, that is often something that's talked about a lot, authenticity. So when you're in the spiritual groups, the most superior one is the one that is most authentic. What a game. What a game we are as humans. We're no different from the animals. So Kalisi is always about positioning herself in the most superior way. So she wants the best bit of the bed, the best bit of the food, the best bit of all things. And part of my game with her is I have to show her that I'm boss. She's second. But as humans, we have way more complex games about survival. And it's all about survival, because the most powerful, the most superior you are in society, the safer you are. So you think. So you think. It's all about playing this game. And people get really funny about this. You know, they don't want to admit it to themselves because they don't want to admit their game. And because when you really see it, you realize you can't win the game, because this is part of the programming and you can't undo that. And another part of clever playing the game is not revealing your cards, so not revealing what game you're playing. So if you're trying to play being superior artist, you don't reveal that. You just slowly do it secretly and quietly. And then when people compliment you, like, oh, you're too kind, I'm not so great. So to you in that moment, the most superior answer is being modest, ethical, or kind. And that is the way we work, basically. And that's the way our ego is structured. Everything you're doing is about becoming the best version of you, which in your mind is the most powerful and the most successful and the most safe and the most loved. No matter what you do, always in the human world, it's about that. Including myself, I am not on the human level superior to that. So what is my game right now? What is my game? Boop, 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 boop. Boop, my game is boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, being cute. Boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And everyone's like, oh, she's so cute. And I'm like, oh, get out of here. I'm not so cute. Ow, ow, ow. What is it in German? Doch, doch, doch. Partner always tells me I'm being too dramatic. Doch, doch, doch. And I do that. But I love doing it dramatic. You know? And I'll tell you this. So you have a bit of an inside view of the Lisa Cairns personality, is that when I was younger, it was safe for me to be adult. So be adult and be looking after other people, but to do it in an innocent, childlike way. And you thought I was being unique because I was enlightened. You didn't realize that's just the game that this body is programmed to be. She is programmed to be the carer, but to do it in a non-dominating, non-controlling manner. She used to do it in a playful and fun way. Da-da. Da-da. Now you know. Now you know. So all those emails that I get about being authentic, I would say I am being authentic, but my authenticity is conditioned like everything in this world. Everything in this world. Do beep boop beep boop. Boop beep boop beep boop. And my mum is very childlike as well. Very childlike. We still give each other teddies and toys for presents. In fact, I have bought her a very cute elephant for Christmas. And if I could move and this wasn't a setup, I would just show you some of the toys she's bought me. Yeah. But this is very uncomfortable maybe for you to hear, because what you will look for in a teacher is somebody that is superior often, because then it makes you feel superior. It's not about me being superior. Actually, if you've got the opportunity, you will bring me down. But you'll want a superior teacher, because the more superior teacher you have, the more superior you will feel about yourself. So I'm now just effing up my numbers of views. You're all like, oh, fuck this. Oops, I'm trying not to swear because of the algorithms. You're all like, oh, beep to beeping this. Beep to beeping this. I don't want to know any more from this beep, because she's a egotistical beep that knows nothing better than any other beep. I need somebody that has the most superior, ultimate beeping message, because I am beeping better than everybody else around me, but I'm pretending I'm not. And there's nothing dark in this. The darkness actually is your inability to admit it. Like when you admit it, it's like childlikeness. Like, so when you see children growing their ego, they're playing the game so badly, and it can be really irritating because you can see all their manipulations. So the actual non-darkness to it is the honesty and the innocence in it. That we are simply animals. It becomes dark in the human world when we're constantly self-deceiving and deceiving the other. Like it's like, and that's where it becomes dark, and that's where we get into so much conflict. And then it's like our ego will really battle for it. I was watching this most amazing interview the other day about a prostitute, who is a high-class prostitute. It's this guy that does amazing interviews on YouTube from America. He's trying to, by exposing what happens underground in America, it's kind of like a political activism. It's like showing people what happens. And one of them was with a high-class prostitute. And yeah, she was really cool. She's obviously high intelligence, and she came from a well-educated family. And yeah, and you know, she's not, a lot of the prostitutes he interviews are on drugs. She's not really on drugs, although she smokes a lot of cannabis, but I think she doesn't see that as a drug. Yeah, she was just really cool about a lot of things. But when I was watching the interview, I could see how there was a part of her ego that was hiding in proudness of her work. Like, she was very proud of what she did. She saw herself as like an alternative sex. She saw herself as an alternative sex artist. So she wouldn't call herself a prostitute. And in that, I could see it as a massive defense against any shame that she held against about what her work was. And there's no shame in it. I have no issue. If somebody chooses to use their body to earn an income, I feel like they have the freaking right to do that. It's their right. It's not the government's right to choose. I think the government is absolutely crazy not legalizing prostitution personally, because every day they don't legalize it, they make it more dangerous for women. Way more dangerous. Sex trafficking, abuse. But anyway, that's why the smart countries legalize it, with the smart leaders. I think there's very few. Holland, Germany, I don't know if that's, I think there's maybe illegal sex workers in Holland as well, and Germany, but I feel like it's a woman's right, absolute woman's right, and nobody has the right to judge somebody for doing that, I feel, my personal view. There's me getting on my bandwagon. And the more people are educated about it, the more people can make informed choices about what they choose to do. And so I feel there's no shame in what she does, but there is shame in her because of most probably other people's judgments on her. So I can see this aggression coming into her personality, that when she starts to say things about how proud she is, there is a look in her eyes like, if you argue with me, I am gonna like get out my dragon blaze and burn you. And this is what the ego does, or what this separate self does. It's like, if you don't believe my story about me, if you don't believe my games, which I don't really know I'm playing, but it has this sense, it's like a protection, like it will protect it at all costs. And this is where wars are created. Whereas if she could just have the information that basically there is shame that arises in her in that moment. That's so hard for people to get to because they're so ashamed. There's shame that arises in her in that moment, so therefore she becomes super defensive about anybody judging her. And then she will go to war for it. You could see that she would go to war for it. And that's always the way when you're defending seeking energies. We're seeking energies that create this illusion of you, which is a denial. It's a hiding. It's a denial of what we are, that we are simply animals and there's nothing shameful about being this. And we are predators, and we also are herbivores, not predators. We are, what is it called when we're everything? Opportunitors? Opportunistic tours. Well, we'll eat anything. I forget the name of what we're called. You know, and we have all these complicated games, you know, and ideas and empathy, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's so innocent. Just like I look at Kalisi and her games. Like we had somebody over the other day, and she was always making sure she sat between me and the other person. And basically what she's saying to the other person is, this is my bitch. This is my bitch. You are allowed that far from her. And I allow her to do that because I'm lazy. Other dog owners wouldn't allow her to do that. And there's nothing, that's just her game. That's just her dynamic there. And she doesn't have the ability to consciously recognize that the body-mind is playing a game in that moment. But we do as humans. And that's what makes us freaking amazing. And that's what makes us the ability to have what we define as enlightenment. There isn't really a person that gets enlightened. But what can happen is there can be this awakening to who you truly are, this remembering of impersonality. So the dogs just are this beingness. They never identified with the body-mind. They're just this beingness. But we have the ability to be identified, then remember this. And through that movement of being identified and then remembering themselves, in the human level, it's what we call enlightenment. There's not really an enlightenment because there's not really a human there, but that you could say that body-mind then has this recognition. But there is really no enlightenment, because who would get enlightened? Like, so the true enlightenment isn't a thing. It isn't something that happens to anybody. But that is so freaking amazing that we on the human level can recognize being separate and then going back home. Whereas Kalisi can never recognize that because there's never been a separation. There is just what's happening. And then through this self-awareness, we can go beyond our animal instincts. So we can evolve our animal instincts and make them freaking awesome. Like, we can evolve to see empathy as beneficial to yourself, to the community, and be empathetic. Kalisi doesn't have the ability to be empathetic. She sees a rabbit and she's like, I'm taking you down, go for the neck. And she doesn't even care about playing for it and putting it out of its pain quickly. She doesn't care. She just doesn't have the ability to see that there's something that experiences this pain happening in the other body. So basically, what's happening in the human all the time is this idea of superiority and trying to be the most superior human. But there is a constant denial of that because the person is so ashamed of its nakedness. So then we go back to the story of Adam and Eve. Like Eve ate the apple of knowledge and then became embarrassed of her nakedness. So she became self-aware. She ate the apple of knowledge, became self-aware, and was embarrassed of her own nakedness. So it's like we have this intelligence which allows us to see our animalness, our humanness. And then we're so ashamed of being human that we build up all these layers to try to beat everybody, but in an unconscious way. That is what every organism on this planet is about expanding. It's not really about beating, but that's what you could say in one narrow view, but it's about expanding really. And through expanding, we expand and we take over other organisms. And everything is about that. So you could say beating it, like who is competition, but then you could see it as this expansion. And we as humans have the ability to expand into freaking awesomeness. Awesomeness. Like radically amazing shit. But that can only happen when there is the total recognition that the person isn't you. Who you are is this life, is this freedom, and then the willingness to expand that person more and more to that recognition. It is so cool. That is super cool. Yeah. Yeah, baby. So back to the question about superiority. Let me look at what the question is again. Is there a concept of value which is considered absolute or superior? No. You see, absolute and superior is all about you and your survival. Even in non-duality, I mentioned between the absolute and the relative, the absolute and the human level. But it's not about that. Anything that you think is absolute and superior is more than likely, there could also just be the thoughts about trying to organize things, but it is more than likely a seeking energy that wants to be associated with the best because you want to be the best. Or you have superior ideas over other people so you can be the best. Just notice, when you're by yourself, are you in your mind arguing with other people about these belief systems? If so, that's about survival. Do you get mad when other people don't believe you? Yeah, baby, yeah. Who you are is this emptiness which is experiencing. There is no superior or better belief system. There is an evolution which will constantly expand. Who you are is this moment, which is free which is all-knowing while simultaneously not knowing. And there is nobody that has more of it. Nobody. There can be people that are, or body minds that are identified with being a person and forgetting it, but essentially everybody has the same beingness. It's the birthright of all things. It is everything, including the inferior thoughts and the superior thoughts. It is all. It is you. It is me. It is a dog. It is the sound of radiators now whistling. It is the sunlight. It is the dark. It is the air. It is the computer. It is everything and nothing. And this is your freedom. This is the freedom. No concept will free you. No therapy will free you. No action will free you. It will help the person. It will help expand the person. But the true freedom comes from recognizing the freedom of what you are right now, what's always been, what always will be. This. Okay, so we can move on to questions. What questions do you have? So you can ask the questions through Skype. My Skype address is LisaCairns12. If you want to call in, please put "call me" with nothing else next to it and send it. And they will get superior ranking to the written questions. You can also write me questions and you can just go ahead and do it. I've got it on red so that people can't hear the call-ins. Devish, call me. So I'm just asking, do you want to speak or was that an accident? So if you want to speak, Devish, just put yes, call me. So hey Nick. The sunflowers. Yeah. Good evening, Thomas. Is talking about the ego as if it were an entity merely a convenience? Is it possible that there is no such thing as an ego? Nothing exists as an ego, merely a process of conditioning. Yeah, totally, it's a process of conditioning. There isn't a solid thing called the ego. There is patterns happening in the body. How does that feel, Derek, to ask that question? There is no questions. Okay, I'll go to YouTube and see if there's any questions in the chat. Okay, why would meditation not be good for high IQ people? This is from Choppy Balboba. Choppy Balboba. I suppose the reason is that it often can increase thinking. So often, this isn't all the time, but often with high intelligent people, is they have become very mind focused. Unless they had parents at a very young age that taught them to keep going into their body, they become very mind focused. And they learn at a very early age that they can get lots of rewards from focusing on the mind, and they can have advantages over their social and environmental situations through using their intelligence. So then as they get older, a lot of focus goes on to thinking. So a lot of focus goes on to thinking for everyone, but for them it's most probably more so. Then more than likely, because they've got high intelligence and maybe higher intelligence than their parents and their caregivers, they begin to think, oh, I don't need to listen to them, I can rely on myself more. And then through relying on themselves more, they put more energy into thinking, into the thinking mind. And then what often begins to happen is there becomes a split. And this is a physiological action that happens where they begin to split off their thinking mind from the rest of their body. So therefore, their thoughts dominate everything. And they actually tell themselves a story about how they feel than actually feel how they feel. Which to me is mind-boggling, because my feelings are so strong that I can't override it with a story. I used to when I was younger, but I don't think I ever did it that badly. But I remember my teacher pointing out to me one time when we were having a heated debate about something, and he kept telling me I was getting angry, and I kept denying I was getting angry. And then he was like, go into your body, go into your body. And when I went into my body, I was like, oh yeah, I am getting angry. But my story, because it was convenient for me, kept telling me I'm not getting angry. And so that's what I thought was happening. So with very high intelligence people, and this doesn't happen all the time, it happens in a lot of cases, is there is such a focus on the mind, they physiologically cut off their feelings in their body. So often when I work with high IQ people or people that are more in their mind, they don't actually know how they feel. And this is very abstract to them, the idea of feeling things in the body. And they often can't. So they know how to do things through intellect. Whereas for me, I do things partly the intellect informs me, partly the feeling, and then partly an intuition, or what you could call the God factor, like this coming from nothing factor. And then there is the feelings that arise which also come from nothing, and the thoughts which also come from nothing. So if I wanted to say, it could be partly from flow, the feelings, which you could say are flow as well, or it's complex, and the thought. Whereas high IQ people have no sense often of flow or of their feelings in their body. It's just about the narrative they're telling themselves. And even if I say this to a high IQ person, so if you're a high IQ person listening, you won't even really know what I'm talking about, because you don't really know that there is other people that feel feelings in their body. What this does to a high IQ person is it often makes them cross their boundaries continuously. So what they can do is they can override what they feel. They can override emotions very well, but then this often makes them sick and unbalanced because they are overriding their flow, their limits with the intellect. And they often will do this to partners and people in their environment, so they will have conflict out in the world because they won't understand other people's emotions, so they'll try to override people's emotions with their intellect. Which is stressful to outside people as well. So when high IQ people then begin to meditate, they begin to see it as a mental exercise. Whereas in some way it is like you're training your mind again, but another way it isn't. and then the mind will just dominate again. So then what's actually better for high IQ people is to do something physical, which actually pulls them down into the sensation and to the feelings of the body. Sometimes high IQ people can get OCD thinking or controlling behaviors, and also when you sit and meditate, that can come out and be exacerbated. So again, it's better to do something physical like yoga, tai chi, exercise, to pull you down into the body. Yeah. I hope that answers that question. So when I say all of this, what it does is it constructs in your mind the idea of a high IQ person. So there is actually somebody inside that body that has high IQ. But when I say it all, just please take into account that I'm not actually talking about somebody. These are processes which are happening in the body, and then there is an identification with that. Often when somebody is really in the mind, they have heightened seeking because their body is actually very uncomfortable. So when it's heightened seeking, there is more of attachment to the body. The seeking increases the attachment. The seeking makes you seek more in time for resolution. And then it pulls in and creates this person. So it exacerbates the person. But there isn't actually somebody in there. So even if I'm saying this about you, then there might, if you're high IQ, you might be feeling shame because it's about you. But that's not you. That's a happening. That's a bodily process that's been trained. It's genetic, social conditioning, environmental conditioning, and then it's creating the appearance. The body is like having these responses in every moment, creating the appearance of a character, but that isn't who you are. Who you are is this no thing, which is all things, this mystery. That is who you are. You're not that character, you're not the person with high IQ. That's a bodily condition. And then an entity is created out of me. That is me. And then there is a searching in that me world for freedom because you've lost that sense of freedom of who you are. Tak. Okay, let's go back to Skype. Is there anybody there? Any call me's? So I asked Derek how that question. There is a feeling of sadness because I intuit that I was looking for confirmation of something I already know. Forgive me. Oh, nothing to forgive, Derek. That's great that you can feel into that. Like you don't, I don't have any expectation of you, Derek. Anything. So it's just feeling that feeling. So what is it about confirmation of something that you know? What is it that you like about that? So that is something that arises in time, and then the person has the idea that this will bring me freedom or relaxation. Whereas the relaxation is beyond that. It's here. It's that which is experiencing. So there is that mind that wants the confirmation and the relaxation. And then there is the freedom that's right here. Hello, Carola. Thank you. Hi, Hassan. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Amy. Is being pure in stories a sign of high IQ or a trauma response and dissociating? It can be both or either. Yeah. So that's another reason why that happens is trauma and dissociating and then going into the mind. Yeah. But it's also seeing that none of that is who you are. So that is happening in the personality structure. There's a person that's dissociated, the person that's not feeling the body. When it happens, there's often lots of seeking, which creates strong attachment to the outcomes of the person, the pleasure and the pain. So, and then when there's strong attachment, there is a stronger identity there. It's believed to be more real. The more you seek, the more real you are. And then behind that, there is this watching, which is also in front and in all places, but that's how we often speak about it. Beyond that is this watching, this looking, which is totally free. Totally and utterly free. Thanks, Amy. Oh, hey, Stan. Big love back at you. Hi, Lisa. Where is the line between self-love and egotism? Thanks. So in psychology, there is this idea about you have to build up the ego. So when the ego is created, dependent on your genetics and the way that you're conditioned, you can either have a negative ego or positive ego. So a negative ego would be telling yourself negative stories about yourself all the time. And that's simply because of the way you're conditioned. And it is a form of survival, ironically, because you can do it with dogs as well. It's like you're conditioning them to be negative. I've done it with Kalisi in certain situations where she traumatized me a little because she's a feral dog from Thailand and she can be aggressive. And when she can be aggressive in the beginning, it shocked me. And so I would yell out or shout or make a song and dance. And what it would do was, even if it was scary to her, it confirmed to her that being that way was good. Even though it's negative and it feels negative, it made her feel like that was the right way to be. So ironically, when your negative ego is created, there is a sense that that is the most powerful and best thing to be at that time, but then it becomes habit. So then in psychology, there is this idea that you have to have a healthy ego in order to navigate the world. And I actually can see the sense in that, but it's really complex to explain it in an easy way in relation to non-duality. because you do kind of need a healthy ego to navigate this world. Like if you've got a very negative ego, then you're just going to bring negative things to yourself. If you feel like you're really a piece of shit, that's what you'll keep bringing to yourself. And if you have an ego, say, like no ego, where you can't make choices, then that's what you'll keep bringing to yourself, is a choiceless life where things are just invading to you and happening to you. So what they do in therapy is often build up your ego to make it a healthy ego. And that will actually most probably decrease seeking. So you'll most probably become a happier person, because happiness is all about presence, is all about this, what is. So as you become a healthier ego, there'll most probably be less seeking. But what will still be there, unless you get into non-duality, is this attachment to believing that's you. So even like though there might be less attachment to it, because there's less seeking, there's less attachment to it. When there is lots of seeking, there is lots of attachment to it. There is lots of investment in what happens to you, what's good, bad, the way other people see you. But as you become more happier, there's less investment in what happens in time. And that's a good thing in a way, but what it does is it still holds the thought and the idea that that is who you are. And while you believe that you are a form, there will always be suffering. While there is this attachment to that, there will always be suffering. Who you are is beyond form, is beyond all things, all outcomes, all ideas. Healthy ego, non-healthy ego. You are beyond that. You are this. And what is this? This is this empty looking which is on all places. It's not behind, even though I say that. It's not in front. It's not somewhere which can be found. It is no thing which is all things. It is no thing which is all things. So right now, there is experiencing happening there. There is experiencing happening here. But when you look for it, you cannot find there and here. And even the you begins to disappear. The one that's looking for it. There is simply what is, which is crystal clear. Just here, right now. Right here, right now. Boop, 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 boop. Hi, Carmela. Oh, another sunflower. That's sweet. 2 sunflower people have sent me today. Hi, Natano. Hi, Lisa. Can you comment on how to deal best from a non-dual perspective with pain in the body or the pain body? I lately struggle with dealing with physical pain and balance in between just feeling, seeking, medical information and treatment, panic and meditation. I think there will be a general aspect as in pain and how to deal with it, but also an individual aspect as in my reaction according to my own genes and up-to-date conditioning. Somebody's been listening to Roger Castillo or Ramesh Balsaka. No, I'm not saying that's bad, I'm just playing. As far as this lasts, could one, I myself, dive deeper into myself for what's coming up with my pain body? Hi, Natano. I'm so sorry to hear about your pain in the body or the pain body. When you say or the pain body, is it emotional pain or physical? Like, do you have a diagnosis? Is it like cancer, or you don't have to tell me what it is, or is it like an autoimmune disease where you're unsure if it's psychosomatic or if it's real? I mean, why did you put the pain body? Because the pain body in Eckhart Tolle is often described as like the emotional pain body. Yeah. And thoughts, like feelings and thoughts, I think. It's not normally described, I don't think, as physical pain. Yes, if you could just clarify that. He says, if better, call me. Yeah, that might be easier.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for writing your question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So when you said about physical pain, is it emotional, or is it actually like you've broken your leg or you have something physically wrong with you? Hello? I can't hear you. Oh, sorry, you just weren't speaking. That's okay. Take your time.
Yes. It's... Oh,
were you getting confused by the delay? So you're listening to me through Skype now. You have to pause or silence the YouTube, otherwise it'll be very confusing.
Okay, yes, I silenced the YouTube.
Yeah.
This is better, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the YouTube is like 10 seconds or 20 seconds delayed.
So I turned off YouTube now.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just physical pain. It's not a severe... Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a severe thing like cancer or what you mentioned, but I suffered from a light heart conditioning the last 2 years, and now I have some physical pains. And I noticed with myself that I can go into kind of panic, a solution for it.
Right.
Instead of, yeah, that's what I heard with Eckhart Tolle. Stay with it. Stay with the pain the moment I feel it in the body, and that's, I think, that's a very difficult thing to stay with the pain.
Yeah, totally. So, and what type of physical pain is it when you say, like, is it in the heart or is it in your fingers and toes, or?
It's in my pulse.
You get like heart fluctuations or something?
No. That's just okay now. No, it's just the physical pain now is with muscles and in the pulse.
Okay. And does it hurt in your heart or in joints? Okay. I just asked to clarify this because often people can get a lot of panic around the heart area when they have pain in the heart area. And there's many reasons for that. And so I just was trying to clarify the pain. So it is actually a physical, it's not something that your head is making up. It's not like a panic attack or anything like that. It is a physical diagnosis that you've been given and you're experiencing. Because in spirituality, there's loads of different things that people say about illness and physical pain. And I don't really have a judgment on it. I think it's down to each individual and what helps them and benefits them the most. It's not really about a belief system about it. And I think that Eckhart Tolle is really right in that. The thing is it is impossible in a way for the person to stay present to that pain, because the person is something that moves in time. So the person is always going to be wanting to think about the past or move to the future. And so what you're doing is you're focusing the mind right into what's happening now, and then you're cutting out thoughts about future and past. But what the person is programmed to do, and it's not necessarily suffering, it's just the way the person works, is to think about time and look for solutions in time. Mm. And so it is really an impossible task that you're embarking on, is to try to stay present to the pain. But if you actually do it, you will, it will be easier, because what the mind can do, like you say, is bring up negative thoughts about it and then create panic in the body, which adds on to the pain. Mm. So I do think it is a really great practice, but I think there's other considerations to take into that you can meditate deeper on, is who is the person that's doing that? That is one thing that you can look at, like who is the person that's trying to stay present? Because there is also a presence, and there can be this energetic shift when this is noticed. There is also a presence that's always here and always free. And the person can be thinking in time, and that presence can be totally free. So that's one thing to consider. And then the other thing to consider is what sparks the seeking into time. And it sounds like you know that it's like a fear or an anxiety. Like maybe you can speak a bit more about that, like what sparks the seeking in time for you? Like what?
Well, I just want the pain to stop.
Right.
So it's kind of
yeah.
The panic is about fear. Yes, that's correct. About feeling alone.
Yeah.
About being comforting around this pain.
Yeah.
And then I jump into, yes, that's forward.
And how high is the pain? Like, so if you had 0 being no pain and 10 being lots of pain, how high is it?
It's about, I think 3 or 4, but it's enduring.
Right, it doesn't ever go.
No, when I take some soft medics, painkillers, then it disappears. Yes.
Mm. And do you try alternative medicines as well, like acupuncture or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you try this, and does that help at all?
It helps. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and these thoughts are very elusive thoughts, especially the loneliness that we feel with pain when we have physical pain or physical disability or mental disability in any way. That is very elusive, that thought, because there is an I there that is lonely with this. And you can see it as being abandoned, being unloved, being rejected, being unable to do things to fit in. That's a very addictive thought that most people are really running away from their whole life. This is the great opportunity with physical pain, is this questioning of the doer. I had a friend when I lived in Australia, my next door neighbour, he was really fit and super healthy, and he was a builder, and he was also really super successful. And then at the age of 37, he got a brain tumour, and then he lived for another 9 years, even though they said that, like, they gave him a very small amount of years to live. He managed to live for another 9 years. But what it did was it slowly took his capacity away to do things. So, going from this really fit and healthy 37-year-old that had accumulated a good amount of wealth, that was doing really well, that was in the prime of his life, to slowly having things taken away. And it's a very painful process, as you can imagine, to go through. But what it did is it really showed him that his freedom isn't about doing. So he said to me at one point, my whole life, I thought I was a human doer. And what I've been forced to realize is that I'm actually a human being. And most people that you'll ever meet are addicted to doership, addicted to being someone that does. And if you don't do, you are going to be abandoned by society. This is the assumption. I am useless. I am nobody in society if I don't have my physical health in order to contribute. Mm-hmm. And this is incredibly destabilizing and scary. But if you can stay with that emotion and stay with these feelings, it stops them gaining energy and gaining momentum. It's like doing the opposite. Like, this is not true. So the thought comes up, and then seeing that it is not true. So feeling it, feeling that fear, feeling that discomfort, but it is not true. Your happiness and your worth has always been about beingness. Your freedom is about this moment. It's not about you in time being something. There is nobody that has to be something. There is nobody that has to go somewhere. There is nobody that has to have pain or not have pain. Your freedom is always this moment. What happens when I say that to you? And you can say anything. I'm not attached to these teachings like you have to like that or not like that. I don't see them as mine. I see them as yes, I think that I learned and pass on. Yeah.
Your example fits as a glove, because from this guy from Australia,
Roger Castillo.
Oh,
my friend, the one that died.
Your example about feeling alone, because the last 2 years there were other circumstances. I slowed down in my job, mm-hmm. and I was divorced, so it counts up with the physical pain, which is not so bad as such, but adding with the other things, it comes close to your example of this 37-year-old guy. Feeling useless, feeling alone. What's the future? I'm a little bit older, I'm 66, so what's happening now?
Yeah, totally. And it's really seeing that these thoughts aren't truth. They're not truth. It doesn't mean that you don't find a new relationship or change the work or whatever suits you. But it's that these thoughts, when they come out, are absolutely not about changing your circumstance. They're about maintaining the identity and maintaining your story and seeking energy, which has gone on not just in your lifetime, but many generations of humans. This idea of running away from loneliness. And the loneliness comes from this separation. Like, I am separate, I am this identity which has to be something in order to be loved, whereas actually you are love. You are that love you seek. It's the birthright of everything. It will be there in death, it will be there in divorce, it will be there in the brain tumor, it will be there in the moments of agony. It's always there, it will never abandon you. And that's the freedom of non-duality, that's the unconditioned love, recognizing what you are, what's there all the time, that never leaves, that never goes into time, that is always right here. And it's not a bodily sensation, it's not a mental idea, it's not a concept, it's what's always been.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. That's the background of my question.
Yeah, nice, with pleasure. Yeah, thank you for calling in and speaking with me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, so beautiful. God, life is so beautiful. Hey, Emily Claire. Emily Claire, My second name is Claire, but maybe your whole name is Emily Claire. Hi, Lisa. As I started to observe how I narrate my sense of a self-identity, I've also noticed how sometimes the people around us reinforce these narrations' identities, not in a malicious way, just habitually assigning characteristics and stories back and forth to one another. Any insight into how to navigate this? Hey, Emily, Claire. Thanks for your question. Again, this asserting identities back and forth is actually a survival mechanism. So them validating your sense of self and your ego and your seeking patterns is them trying to be loved by you. And it's also them trying to be someone in comparison to you. So if they have a negative story with you, it's still, and they're putting you down, it's still them trying to be something. But if they're trying to complement your story and boost up your story, it's about them being loved by you. So again, it's about survival. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. If you took it really back down to the animal basics, it's like two dogs licking each other's ears. But it's this identification with it. Or it's two dogs licking each other's ears, or the top dog trying to put the other dogs in place. And you don't really need the other person to change. It's recognizing in you what they're doing. You know, when they're agreeing with your story, validating your story, like how this makes you feel good. And that's okay, but that's not freedom. If you seek that out as your freedom, then there'll be an addiction to doing that. And when they don't do that, you'll want to kill them. You'll be so angry at them. How dare they? And then when they're putting you down, then your belief that is the end of your freedom. And then you want to kill them in that way, because you're like, how dare you put me down? I'm freaking better than that. I'm better than you. Blah, blah. So it's just seeing what's happening. And that none of it gives you freedom. So what is freedom? We're always looking for freedom in time, in ourselves, in our pleasures, in our pains, in our aversions. Your freedom is always what's always been, what always is, what never leaves. Isn't that heaven? God, I get love orgasms saying that. What never leaves, what always is. Can't you hear the freedom in that? It's nothing to do with Lisa. It's live, it's speaking out its truth. What never leaves, what always is. And then also seeing in you why you validate or disvalidate people. I think one of my biggest weaknesses in human interaction is fear of their explosions if I don't agree with them. Like I do lots of sessions and, you know, confronting people's egos as a living, and sometimes you're like waiting for the shit fan to spray all over you like that. They're all like peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. You push too hard. You know? We all have our different trigger points, and I would say in the human world that triggers me at points. Like the fear of their rage as you poke. And the fear of their depression as well. Like sometimes, like I can see, if I poke too hard, they're just going to collapse into themselves. And it actually physically hurts me validating people's stories when I know it's not true. It physically is a pain. Yeah. So you have to play the dodgeball, the dodgy dodge, and try to make the best out of it. I'll give you one piece of information which is very astute. It's one of the most best metaphors for this that I've ever had. If life throws you a lemon, you squeeze it and you make lemon juice or a lemon drop. You squeeze it, you get another lemon, you squeeze it, and you make lemon juice. Yeah. I hope you can appreciate my banana-ness, Emily Claire. I mostly wouldn't do this if we were one-to-one speaking, but because I just see a picture of you, it allows more of my monkey out. Edorine. Hey, Edorine. Thomas. That was by accident. Sorry. That's all right, Devish. Danka. Well, that is the end of the questions. This is good. I have executed you all early tonight. Just let me go to YouTube. A friend said to me the other day, they wrote me a message and they said, I watched your stream the other day. I really enjoyed it, but the background is a little distracting. It defeats the object of what you try to do by making you seem more than what you are, something like this. And when I read it, I had no idea they were talking about this background, and that it was making me look higher or more enlightened than I am. Like, that the human gets enlightened, all these gurus that sit on big thrones. And, but I read it, and I read it in the way they were talking about the background, the consciousness. So they were like, I got distracted by the consciousness. It makes you seem more enlightened than what you are. And I was like, well, okay. I really did say this to them. I was like really not sure what to make of that or to say to that. But yeah, I can understand how that could happen. Like I was trying to be really understanding. And then later when a video, it like suggested one of my videos or something to me and I saw the background, I suddenly realized they meant this background. They weren't meaning the consciousness. Words are so funny, aren't they? And our misunderstandings. That was so funny. It might not sound so funny in description of it. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So somebody's put, maybe Lisa's sarcasm is very special, non-dual, enlightened sarcasm that's beyond normal sarcasm, I would say. I would say that's true. I love the background. Lisa, do you know at least one word in Russian? I do. I do know a word in Russian. My friend Ina has taught it to me. Oh, I do. It's about drink. Let's see if it comes and I don't think of it. Yeah, okay, no questions there. So that is beyond. That is done. So I suppose it leaves me to the end of the stream. But before you all go, there is something that I feel that I should tell you because I've been opinionated about this in the past. And I feel like I feel like firstly, I shouldn't have to say this. But secondly, I feel like because I've been opinionated and talked about it on my streams in the past, that I have to say it. Which is kind of funny. It's my ridiculous Lisa character that's always so ethical, is that I got vaccinated. No joke. I did. And it's so crazy that we live in a time where we have to confess our vaccination status. But I only say it because, as people know, I'm not into that, and I'm not into vaccination passport, but I couldn't take where I live and the restrictions anymore and the pressure, and I caved. And I think I get my vaccination passport in 2 weeks, and I'm dead happy to get it. Yeah. So there. But I'm still. I feel like when you commit to doing something, you've got to put it into positive. So, like, you've got to start thinking about it positively, not negatively. So I'm happy and I'm beautiful and I'm excited about it, but that's happened. But at the same time, if I was running society, I would not. I think I'm an anti-vaxxer. I think I believe, but I'm not positive about it because I haven't been in all situations with diseases. But I think I believe that everybody has the right, whether they choose to be vaccinated or not. And I don't think it's wise for society to give privileges to people where they can or can't do things, and they can or can't travel to see family members. I don't live in the same country as my mother. Yeah. And I don't think that that's wise to do as a society. I don't agree with it. But this is the place and time in which we're in, and this is what we have to deal with. Yeah. Yes. And I certainly don't agree with creating any allopathic medicine tested on animals. That is my biggest difficulty with it. Ich liebe, I don't know how to say animals in German. I love the animals. I love them. Yes. But that is that. I have to now be positive because that's the stuff I've put into my body. And in the end, it's all about thought. So I have to now transform into loving the vaccine. I love the juicy stuff that pricked the arm. Oh, crap. I've been talking about vaccine. Ugh, I'm going to be barred again from YouTube. I do know a Russian word. It's about drinking. Thank you for telling us. Now we know it's okay, Lisa. Yeah. I mean, I generally wouldn't have to tell you what medication I take or don't take, but because I have been quite overt about my opposition to forced vaccinations and medicines that are testing on animals, I feel like I have to also confess what I did. Yes, and I'm still alive. I didn't die from it. And I feel like I can cope with it. There's not going to be long-term effects. Yeah, and everybody has the right to choose. Every one of you, no matter what you do, if you're anti it or positive it, go, baby, go. That is your right to feel and to express and to choose what you want. Yes. And I didn't know that anti-vaxxers was simply the idea that everyone has the right to choose to be vaccinated or not. But I'm not positive about that. I don't know if I am or not. I think I most probably am. But then I've never been in a situation where the disease is killing 90% of the people. I don't know. And then if we've got people saying, I'm not taking the vaccine, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, my loves. That is Alice. Das ist Alice. Das ist Alice. And I wish you everything. Not just one thing or two things. I really wish you every goddamn thing. Every goddamn thing. Yeah.